In the book of Judges, there's a story about a leader who managed to save his entire nation, but in the process, he lost absolutely everything. Today, we are diving into the tragic vow of Jephthah, a story about a hero's incredible rise, a stunning victory, and a terrible, terrible price.
And that really is the question that hangs over Jephthah's entire life, isn't it? I mean, he's a deliverer of Israel, no doubt. But his story really forces us to ask, what are we willing to overlook in our leaders? And what costs are just too high? So let's unpack his story and see for ourselves. And right from the get-go, the text just lays out this stunning contradiction. On the one hand, Jephthah is called a mighty warrior, the guy who's going to save his people. But on the other, he's an outcast, the son of a prostitute, literally driven from his home and surrounded by, and I'm quoting here, worthless fellows. This is the core tension of his entire life. So how in the world does an outcast like this become a leader? Well, it all starts with Israel hitting absolute rock bottom. Okay, so they're stuck in this classic cycle, right? They worship every foreign god they can get their hands on. God gets angry, and some enemy, this time it's the Ammonites, comes and oppresses them. But here's the thing. Something's different this time. For the first time ever, they don't just cry out for help. They actually confess their sin and, get this, they get rid of their idols. This seems like genuine repentance, and it sets the stage for a whole new kind of deliverance. And this is where the irony just kicks into high gear. The leaders of Gilead, the very same people who drove Jephthah out because of who his mother was, now come crawling back. They are totally desperate. They need a commander to fight the Ammonites, and the outcast they rejected is suddenly their only hope. Now, you might think a guy leading a band of worthless fellows would be all brawn and no brain, right? But before a single sword is even drawn, Jephthah shows he's actually a pretty shrewd diplomat. So the Ammonite king lays out his case. He claims that Israel stole his land centuries ago during the Exodus, and he wants it back. Simple as that. It looks like a straightforward land dispute. But Jephthah's response is, frankly, brilliant. He delivers a masterclass in history and law, and he just systematically dismantles the king's entire claim. Let's walk through it. First, he says, "We never took land from you." Second, "We were just trying to pass through peacefully and other kings stopped us." Third, "The guy who actually attacked us was King Sihon." Fourth, and this is the real kicker, "The land we took, it belonged to him, the Amorites. It was never yours to begin with." And then he finishes with the ultimate mic drop. "Our God gave us this land, end of story." This is not just a tough guy, this is a sharp, capable leader.
Well, diplomacy fails, so war is inevitable. And Jephthah is about to win the greatest victory of his life. But it's going to come at a cost that will overshadow absolutely everything else.
And the text is super clear about this. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. He leads Israel and completely crushes the Ammonites. I mean, it is a total, divinely backed victory. The outcast has delivered his people. This should be a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph. But it's not. Because before the battle, in the heat of the moment, Jephthah made a deal with God. A rash, terrible vow. He promised that if he returned victorious, the very first thing to come out of his house to greet him would be sacrificed as a burnt offering.
And the first person to come out of his house dancing with a tambourine to celebrate her father's victory is his daughter, his only child. The unthinkable has just happened.
And what follows is one of the most harrowing moral dilemmas in the entire Bible. Jephthah is now trapped between two of God's own commands. And here it is, the impossible choice laid bare. On one side, Deuteronomy is crystal clear. A vow you make to God is sacred. You have to pay it. But on the other side, that same book is just as clear. Human sacrifice is a forbidden abomination. So he's legally bound to keep his vow, and he's legally bound to break it. What do you do? Which command is more important? This is the exact question scholars have debated for centuries. Should he have honored a foolish vow that required him to do something God absolutely detested? Or should he have broken his word to God to save his daughter? The Bible, it doesn't spell it out in graphic detail. The language is stark, and it's chillingly vague. Now, some have argued he may have just dedicated her to a life of service at the temple. But the most straightforward reading, and the one the text seems to lead us toward, is the tragic one. He fulfilled his vow. He sacrificed his only child. You'd think that after such a devastating personal tragedy, things couldn't possibly get worse. But for Jephthah, the victory abroad is immediately followed by a brutal conflict at home.
The tribe of Ephraim gets angry, saying they were included in the battle, and they confront Jephthah as civil war breaks out. And to identify the fleeing soldiers from Ephraim, Jephthah's men use a simple password, shibboleth. You see, the Ephraimites had a dialect where they couldn't pronounce that sh sound, so they'd say sibboleth. One sound, a single consonant, was literally the difference between life and death.
And the cost of this civil war was just staggering. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed. Think about that. The very man who united Israel against a foreign enemy now presides over a horrific slaughter of his own people.
And this chart, wow. This just illustrates the final tragedy of his life so clearly. Look at the judges who came right before and right after him. Jair had 30 sons. Ibzan had 30 sons. They had futures, they had lineages, they had prosperity. And there's Jephthah, bracketed right between them, left with 0. He sacrificed his only legacy on an altar.
His story doesn't end with a celebration of his military genius. It ends with a memorial. His daughter's fate, a direct result of his rash vow, became a national tragedy, something that was lamented every single year. That was his lasting impact.
So we're left with this question. Jephthah was a mighty warrior, a brilliant strategist, a divinely appointed deliverer for his people, but he was also a flawed man who made a catastrophic vow. So which one is he? Is he the hero or is he the tragedy? And maybe the hardest part of his story is that the real answer is he was both.